As we think about how do we engage men in the work, because that's the question, right? Like, women have done all the work. Men, it's our turn to join this actual movement, right? So in order to involve men, you've got to make it personal. It is a deep and personal journey that men have to go on. It's a deep journey that I went on, because all men like myself should be on one-day contracts. That every day I have to wake up and prove that I am still doing the work to make the corporate space more gender inclusive. And men, I have a secret for you. When you say that you became a gender equality advocate once you had a daughter, here's a new word I want you to learn: benevolent sexism. Because what you've said is that every woman you've ever met meant nothing to you until you actually had a daughter. We've got to make this issue personal. We've got to connect it to men's values and their purpose. And we've got to reframe this issue around an issue of leadership and growth, not of change. And we have to also become disinterested in needing praise for when we are gender equality advocates. The next thing is that we've got to get rid of this good guy language. Because everyone says, well, I'm one of the good guys. I'm one of the good guys. No one cares. The question is, what are you doing? What actions are you taking to make the corporate space more inclusive and more equitable for women? Because we're all good people, right? No one cares. Now, my friend says this, and I think it defines the good guy conversation best. When your self-conception is centered on the idea of your own goodness, it prevents you from hearing any critique of your ideology and behavior. Allowing yourself to think of yourself as good prevents you from owning the harmful words and actions, since anything that you do in your mind is good. So I implore you all to stop saying that I'm a good person. What you are is human. We all walk around with certain biases. Now, what's the actions that men can start to take? So here are some of the actions. We've got to educate ourselves in the interior lives of women. Women are more than ornaments, more than objects that we try to actually attract. We've got to also understand that when you say, I didn't know that this Me Too thing was happening, it's because we don't read. Women have been talking about these issues for their entire lives. We just haven't read it. We also have to understand the obstacles that women face, because paternity leave is not a luxury, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a luxury. We've got to also discuss the elephant in the room, which is the word patriarchy. We've got to actually have a deep wrestling with what that word means, gentlemen. The work of gender equality is not the work of women alone. And we've got to stop thinking that there's no role for men in this movement. There is a role. We've got to also not try to boil the ocean. There is no silver bullet to fix what's happening around gender equality. Men, we've got to understand that if you're in a fantasy league, a fantasy football, fantasy basketball, whatever you have created an informal mentoring system. So if you've been playing with Charles for the last 16 weeks, and Charles and Sheila have the exact same qualifications, you're naturally going to choose Charles because you know Charles. So how do we start to think a little deeply about how are we showing up in the world? We've also got to stop our fear-based response to gender equality movements. Because you can't say, because of the Me Too movement, I no longer want to take women out to lunch. You weren't taking them anyway, otherwise we wouldn't be here. You also, when you see something, you must say something. I could poll every woman in this room and ask them how many times have they been in a meeting and they said something really smart and intelligent. And 10 minutes later, a guy said it and he got praised for it. Gentlemen, when we see that, we must say something. We must embody these ideas of bravery and courage that we love to cling to as men. And we must be the guy. Be the guy that none of your friends want to hang out with because you no longer accept anyone being sexist or misogynistic. Be that guy. Be the guy that your friends say, I'm not going to invite Duke out because, man, Duke's going to hold me accountable for my language. If we can create Watson, we can change the corporate space. And to quote my friend Gloria Steinem, it is not about making life more fair for women everywhere. It's not about a piece of an existing pie. There are too many women for that. It's about baking a new pie. We can bake a new pie. You all are geniuses in this room. We can bake a pie where there's no zero-sum game, where everyone, both genders, have access to being the faithful, brilliant leaders that they can be. Thank you all so very much.